In order to exchange for Charlie's beloved, I became the kidnapper's new hostage. Charlie said that the sniper was in position and I wouldn't be in danger, but he didn't know that 5 minutes later, the kidnapper would detonate the bomb on his body and die with me. The kidnapper pressed a gun against my head and pushed Grace towards Charlie. I saw Charlie nervously check Grace all over, then, his frown relaxed and he hugged her tightly. From beginning to end, Charlie didn't turn his head to look at me even once. Host, the system's cold voice came. It seems that the mission of winning Charlie's love has failed again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. This was the 3rd year of my marriage to Charlie, and also the 9th time I tried to win his heart. Unfortunately, he still didn't fall in love with me. 10 minutes ago, Charlie didn't hesitate to replace me and agreed to the hostage exchange. Jean, you're from the Harris family. They don't dare to hurt you. Although Charlie seemed a bit reluctant, he still winked at the bodyguard beside him. The sniper is already in position. Grace is delicate. I don't want her to get involved in this bloody matter. The bodyguard put his hand on my shoulder and exerted some force subtly. I couldn't move and resignedly said okay in my mouth, but couldn't help cursing in my heart. Charlie didn't know that 5 minutes later, the kidnapper would detonate the bomb on his body and die with me. After experiencing it several times, before dying, I skillfully lowered my pain perception. I still remember the first time I tried to win Charlie's heart. Grace and I were trapped in a sea of fire. Charlie picked up the unconscious Grace in his arms. He glanced at me, who was injured beside him, and hurriedly left a sentence, "Wait for me." Then he turned around and disappeared from my sight. At that time, I naively thought that Charlie would come back to save me, but until I was burned to death by the fire, I found out that Charlie was busy expressing his love to the awakened Grace. Perhaps the system saw that I was in too much pain before death, so later I gained the ability to adjust my pain perception. The system told me that I had one last chance left. I knew that if I failed again, not only could my wish not be fulfilled, but I would also be completely erased. Jean, I don't like you. Have you lost all your dignity? With a crash, Charlie forcefully slapped my hand off his arm. It was a familiar scene, familiar words, and a familiar hell-like start. I returned to the day when Charlie was forced to marry me. Charlie's voice was not low, and the surrounding guests immediately looked over. They whispered to each other, with obvious teasing in their eyes. I ignored those unfriendly gazes and the stinging pain on the back of my hand. I just silently followed behind Charlie, waiting for the first opportunity. When Charlie passed by the lobby, the crystal chandelier above his head would suddenly fall. In the previous times, I precisely pulled him aside. Then I took the opportunity to throw myself into his arms and shed a few tears of fear. Seeing this, Charlie didn't have the heart to speak harshly to me anymore. But I never expected that Grace would be standing right under that lamp this time. Charlie didn't want Grace to see me, so he turned his head and threatened me viciously. Jean, if you don't want to die, get out of here. But the next second, he followed my gaze and noticed the shaking lamp above Grace's head. Grace, be careful, Charlie shouted in horror and pounced on Grace. Charlie, I was anxious but grabbed nothing. I could only rush forward and push them both away with great force. Charlie couldn't have an accident. If he died, my mission would be directly judged as failed. In that instant, I didn't even have time to lower my pain perception. My internal organs seemed to be smashed. The intense pain made me faint instantly. That night, my wedding with Charlie was on the hot search. The Harris family's young lady bleeds at the wedding scene. Who is the mysterious woman in the arms of the young master of the Wilson family? The grand and solemn wedding eventually ended up as a joke. In a widely spread photo on the internet, Charlie was kneeling on the ground, holding Grace in his arms. His shocked gaze was fixed on a place not far away. There I was, lying in a pool of blood, with my life hanging in the balance. When I woke up, I didn't see Charlie. Grace had an asthma attack due to the shock that day and was sent to the hospital with me. And Charlie only took a quick look at me and then stayed by Grace's side all the time. My mother was indignant and asked me, hating that I couldn't be better, if I really had to be with Charlie. Mom, if something happens to Charlie, I can't live either. I felt helpless in my heart and euphemistically told the truth. But Charlie, who was about to enter the door, heard it clearly. He looked at me with a complicated expression, as if a bit distressed and a bit dazed. He said thank you to me and then said, sorry, Jean, Grace's body isn't well yet, so she can't come to thank you in person. After my mother left, Charlie added this sentence casually, as if Grace was the one who was seriously injured. Just as I didn't want to see Grace's hypocritical appearance either, I nodded indifferently. The doctor said that my condition was unstable and I couldn't be left alone, perhaps to repay me for saving his life. Charlie took the initiative to take on the task of accompanying me, but not long after, he received a call from Grace. Her coquettish voice came from the other end of the phone. Charlie, are you with Jean? I suddenly want to eat the wontons from that store at the West Street intersection. I wonder if I'll go buy them now. Before Grace could finish speaking, Charlie said without hesitation. I clearly saw the smile on Charlie's lips. This stupid love struck full after hanging up the phone. Charlie seemed to remember the doctor's instructions and looked at me with a hesitant expression. I knew about that wonton store. There was always a long queue. I thoughtfully told Charlie not to worry about me. After only a moment of hesitation, he stood up. Sorry, I'll come back as soon as possible. He nodded slightly to me and casually asked if I wanted to eat wontons. I gently shook my head and showed him a wronged and lonely side face. As expected, Charlie paused for a moment. When he turned to leave, a trace of shame flashed across his face, but I never expected things to be so coincidental. Right after Charlie left, I felt a sharp pain in my head. I tried to hold on to my dizziness and pressed the call button. The nurse urgently pushed me into the ICU, but couldn't get in touch with Charlie to sign the papers. The system told me that Charlie was queuing up to buy wontons and didn't hear the phone ring at all. What a disaster. I shouldn't have pretended to be generous to gain his favor just now. I regretted it so much that I rolled my eyes and completely lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I saw the slap mark on Charlie's face and couldn't help laughing out loud. Jean, Charlie turned his face away a bit angrily. Did you do it on purpose? I was only out for 10 minutes, and you managed to get yourself into the ICU. I shook my head, trying hard to hold back my schadenfreude, and said timidly, I'm sorry. Perhaps feeling guilty, Charlie was stunned for a moment and then closed his mouth awkwardly. That day, Charlie surprisingly accompanied me until Grace embarrassedly troubled him again. Charlie, is Jean awake? My stomach feels a bit uncomfortable after eating the wontons. Could you please call a doctor for me? Miss Lynn had given the order, and of course Charlie was more than willing. Jean, stay put. I'll accompany you to go through the discharge procedures next week. Before leaving in a hurry, Charlie condescendingly told me. I nodded, but didn't take it to heart. Charlie had said many similar things, but without exception, he would break his promise because of Grace. After Charlie left, I found a bowl of wontons on the table. It had been too long. The wontons had absorbed all the soup and stuck together in a sticky mass. It looked unappetizing. I expressionlessly threw it into the trash can on the day I was discharged from the hospital. Grace happened to be moving. Charlie sent his assistant to pick me up. When I woke up from the sofa, Charlie's coat was draped over me. Charlie was working in the study. I decided to seize the opportunity to show my attentiveness and brought him a cup of hot milk. Thank you. Charlie didn't raise his head and frowned, rubbing his chest. I immediately became alert. Charlie had congenital heart disease, and every time he felt uncomfortable, he would make this move. Where's your medicine? I asked nervously when I saw Charlie's lips turning purple. I accidentally left it at Grace's place. She said there are a lot of things during the move, and she'll give it to me in a few days when she finds it. Charlie's nonchalant look made my blood rush to my head. Charlie, is there something wrong with your heart or your brain? Doesn't Grace know how important this medicine is? I couldn't help raising my voice in anger. In a few days, you might be just a handful of ashes. Since I mentioned Grace, Charlie's face had turned ugly. He stood up with a sullen face and grabbed my arm. Jean, get out. Charlie was very strong, and I felt a tearing pain on my back. It hurts. My wound has split open. I cried out in pain, but Charlie ignored me and continued to drag me towards the door. Charlie, let go. I couldn't break free no matter how hard I tried. In a hurry, I bit his arm. Charlie's steps suddenly stopped. He let go of my hand and bent down in pain, with a bang. I watched helplessly as Charlie fell in front of me. I rummaged around, but Charlie's spare medicine was also gone. I had never seen Charlie's illness attack so severely. I was at a loss for a moment. The system reminded me that Charlie could hold on for at most 20 minutes. The nearest city hospital was only a 5-minute drive from home. Thanks to the system, I managed to carry Charlie on my back. Another sharp pain came from the wound on my back, and I couldn't help groaning softly. Warm liquid soaked my clothes and Charlie's. I endured the pain and moved towards the parking lot with difficulty. Jean, Charlie regained consciousness at some point and struggled weakly. Put me down. You're bleeding. His movements made me lose my balance. I staggered a few steps and almost fell. When I cried out in pain, Charlie ignored me. Now when I'm trying to save him, he's causing trouble. Don't move. I was angry and anxious. And slapped Charlie's butt hard. You. Whether it was from anger or shame, he fainted again right after he spoke. I stuffed Charlie into the car. The moment I touched the steering wheel, I suddenly shivered. Painful memories came flooding back. My hands and feet seemed to be bound, and tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I cried and begged the system to help me. The next second, the car started. Help, help. As soon as we arrived at the hospital, I shouted and dragged Charlie out of the car. Charlie must not have an accident. I was extremely anxious, watching him being carried away on a stretcher. I then felt my legs go weak and couldn't hold on any longer. I knelt down and burst into tears. I was very familiar with this hospital. I had accompanied Charlie here many times. Every time, I would seemingly unintentionally pass by that ward, through the glass on the door. I peeked at the person lying on the hospital bed. He was as quiet as if he were asleep, just like the way he used to lie beside me. But now, not only could I not stay by his side all the time, but I also had to pray to heaven again and again for the safety of another man. Charlie and I were admitted to the same ward. He even woke up half a day earlier than me. Jean, this is the first time I've seen someone being sent to the ICU because of excessive grief. Charlie's words sounded a bit sarcastic, but there was a trace of confusion in his eyes. He casually asked if I was really that afraid of him dying. I stared at his eyes, which were similar to that person's, and nodded seriously. Charlie, you know that if something happens to you, I can't live either. This was the second time I said this sentence. Charlie was stunned for a long time and then threw a crazy person at me. Then he lay down with his back to me and stopped talking. I saw blush quietly climbing up his ears. The air became quiet, but the system's alarm kept ringing in my ears. Charlie's heartbeat frequency was continuously soaring. After an unknown amount of time, Charlie suddenly sat up. He frowned with a conflicted expression. After a long while, he said, looking like he had no way to deal with me, Jean, I won't do this again. This was the first time Charlie made a promise to me after I saved his life again, before being discharged from the hospital. Charlie told me that his cousin was also in this hospital. Jean, tomorrow is my cousin's birthday. I'll take you to see him, Charlie said, and then added unnaturally, after all, you're my nominal wife. My heart skipped a few beats, but not because of the latter sentence. Suppressing the excitement in my heart, I nodded and said okay. The next day, I bought a bunch of purple irises. Charlie took a look and raised his eyebrows, saying it was a coincidence. He said that his cousin had a lot of paintings of irises in his collection. Really? That's quite a coincidence, I said. I followed Charlie and stood by that person's bedside. I traced his eyebrows and eyes with my eyes again and again, forcibly suppressing the soreness in my nose. I blinked hard to keep the tears from falling. Kevin, wait a little longer. Wait until I win Charlie's heart, then you can wake up. On the way back, I was in a trance. Charlie called me several times, but I didn't react. Jean, have you lost your soul? Charlie honked the horn hard and complained. You were staring at my cousin in the hospital all the time, and now you're looking absent-minded again. What on earth is wrong with you? Charlie looked at me suspiciously, afraid that he would notice something. I lied that Kevin looked so much like him that I got a bit carried away, thinking of the incident when I was scared into the ICU by him. Charlie patiently comforted me a couple of times. In the previous attempts to win his heart, Charlie had never noticed my attention to Kevin, but now, he was obviously starting to care about my every move. Perhaps, the incident with the chandelier really had a butterfly effect. After being discharged from the hospital, Charlie was very busy, and my progress in winning his heart stalled, until one day 3 months later, Charlie offered to accompany me to temple. The weather was sunny that day, and surprisingly, Charlie wasn't called away by grace. He walked with me up the 99 steps in front of the temple. On the way, thinking I was walking too slowly, he even took my hand on his own initiative. He was puzzled as to why I came to worship Buddha every month. I'm praying for the person I love, hoping he'll recover soon and live a worry-free life to 100 years old, I murmured softly, looking devoutly at the Buddha in front of me, without noticing Charlie's intense gaze fixed on me. On the way down the mountain, Charlie suddenly stopped me. Jean, he touched the tip of his nose, his tone awkward yet serious. My heart won't have any problems for a while, so you don't have to come here specially every month. Charlie had misunderstood my prayers in front of the Buddha. I lowered my head and smiled mockingly, not bothering to explain. I just played along and said some nice words to please him. That night, we stayed in a homestay on the halfway up the mountain. The night view was beautiful, and Charlie said he would accompany me to watch the stars. But as soon as he finished speaking, he received a call from Grace. There was a power outage at Grace's place. She was afraid of the dark and wanted Charlie to accompany her. Charlie looked at me, conflicted, and hesitated for the first time. "Don't go." "Okay." A sudden urge to test him came over me, so I grabbed his sleeve and pleaded pitifully. Charlie pursed his lips and remained silent, his expression changing several times. Bang! A loud noise suddenly came from the other end of the phone. "Grace, what's wrong with you?" Charlie snapped back to his senses immediately. He no longer looked at me, but anxiously asked about Grace over and over again. "Charlie, I can't move my leg. Can you come quickly?" Grace seemed to be injured and kept crying, urging Charlie, "Wait for me. I'll be there right away." Charlie frowned tightly and suddenly yanked his arm out of my grasp. I was caught off guard and fell to the ground, my head hitting the stone table beside me. Charlie heard the sound and turned his head. He seemed to want to come and help me, but was held back by Grace on the phone. After Charlie left, I received a message from him. He asked if I was seriously hurt from the fall, and said he would come to pick me up early in the morning. I threw the phone aside self-mockingly, ignoring the wound on my forehead. I sat in the courtyard and started counting the stars. Kevin once told me that every star in the sky was a wish of the world, but suddenly, it started to rain, and the sky turned gray. I couldn't find the star that belonged to me. System. Will I fail this time too? The system didn't answer me? Just let out a sigh of pity. In that instant, all negative emotions such as pain, grievance, sadness, and fatigue welled up in my heart. I couldn't hold back anymore and broke down crying. I cried so sadly that I couldn't tell whether the liquid on my face was rain or tears, until an umbrella shielded me from the wind and rain. "Jean," a familiar voice sounded. I looked up suddenly, unable to believe my eyes. I had never seen Charlie in such a mess. His hair was wet and stuck messily to his forehead. "Jean," Charlie gasped, asking me unhappily, "Are you going to cry here all night?" Looking at the flush on Charlie's face, I was very worried. "Charlie, is your heart okay?" Hearing this, Charlie stared at me with a complicated expression, as if he wanted to say something but held back. It was so quiet in the air that only the sound of rain could be heard, but the system sounded the alarm again. Just because of Charlie's heart rate that couldn't calm down for a long time. A sigh of resignation broke the silence. The corners of Charlie's mouth curled up, with a hint of helpless doting. "Jean," he suddenly bent down and approached me, his voice tender like never before. His breath sprayed on my face. "If you keep looking at me like this, I'm going to kiss you." Charlie softly asked me to close my eyes. He got closer and closer to me. I was startled and quickly turned my head to the side. His warm lips landed on the corner of my mouth. This was the 10th time I tried to win Charlie's heart, but also the first time he kissed me. Charlie explained to me that after the heavy rain, he felt rather restless, so, regardless of Grace's persuasion, he came back to the homestay in the rain to find me. Fortunately, I came back, otherwise, you'd still be out in the rain. Although his words sounded like a complaint, his eyes were full of concern. After hearing this, I just said a polite thank you and then fell silent again. Since I dodged Charlie's kiss, the atmosphere between us had become subtle. This was the first time Charlie left Grace for me. I should have been happy, but I was troubled by that kiss. I didn't know how long it would take to successfully win Charlie's heart, and I was even more anxious about what Charlie might do to me during this process. This time, the progress of winning his heart was much smoother than before, but I started to fall into a strange cycle. I wanted to win Charlie's heart as soon as possible, but I also resisted the possible intimate behaviors with him. Fortunately, Charlie had been on business trips frequently recently and had no time to take care of me. Although I was conflicted inside, I still had a few months of peaceful days, until one day, the scene from the previous life suddenly reappeared. 2 years earlier than before, Grace fell into the hands of the kidnappers again. Still the same familiar words. The condition for exchanging hostages was for me to replace Grace. I looked up and met Charlie's eyes, and my heart tightened instantly. He stepped forward and hugged me, his body trembling non-stop. "I'm sorry, Jean." His lips lingered by my ear, and I heard his reluctant murmur clearly. In an instant, bone-deep despair engulfed me. Charlie's bodyguard held my shoulders tightly, just like in the previous life. This was my last chance. I had to take a gamble. I knew that Charlie was more receptive to soft persuasion than coercion. I was just about to kneel down in front of him, disregarding my dignity, but what happened next took me by surprise. I saw Charlie turn around, raise his hands, and walk step by step towards the kidnapper. Charlie said that as the president of the Wilson Group, he was more valuable than a married daughter of the Harris family. The kidnapper was obviously tempted and started to urge Charlie with a gun. I was so shocked that my mind went blank, and only one voice kept reminding me that Charlie must not have an accident. I struggled frantically, trying to rush forward regardless of everything, but the bodyguard held me back tightly. "Charlie, come back, come back." I fell to the ground in despair, and my vision became blurred. I cried out loudly, wanting to tell him that the kidnapper had a bomb on him, but the system muted my voice. Grace was still crying and urging Charlie to save her, but Charlie stopped and turned his head towards me for the first time. He stared at me deeply and told me with lip language not to worry. I shook my head desperately, watching helplessly as the kidnapper pushed Grace away. The gun was pointed at Charlie's forehead. Bang! The next second, a shower of blood splattered. Ah! Grace screamed and fainted. Charlie's face was covered in blood. At his feet lay the killed kidnapper. The bodyguard let go of me, but my legs were too weak to move. I saw the bodyguard step forward and pick up Grace, while Charlie, bypassing them, rushed straight towards me without hesitation. "It's okay, Jean, it's okay." Charlie hugged me tightly, patting my back constantly to soothe me. My body couldn't stop shaking. I raised my hand and gently wiped the blood on his face. Then, with all my strength, I slapped him hard. "Charlie," I growled at him furiously, "in your heart, only Grace's life matters, right? Do you think other people are dead?" Charlie was stunned by my slap but knew he was in the wrong, and kept saying sorry. It was only a little bit away from my mission failing completely. I suddenly thought of my 9 previous tragic deaths, and the act of Charlie risking his life just now. All the old and new grudges welled up in my heart at once, in a fit of rage. I spat out a mouthful of blood onto his face. I saw Charlie's eyes widen in horror. "Jean, Jean." He grabbed me tightly, shouting my name desperately, but I just felt my eyelids heavy and my mind wandering. Before losing consciousness, I seemed to hear the system saying congratulations. When I woke up, I was still a bit dazed. The system said that at the moment I passed out, I successfully won Charlie's heart, the last chance. In less than a year, it felt like I was in a dream. Host. "Congratulations." I could tell the system was also a bit relieved. "Now, you can make your wish." The system said that on the day I spat out blood, Charlie carried me and ran outside like crazy. If the bodyguard hadn't calmed him down and sent me to the hospital in time, Charlie would probably have been sent to the ICU due to excessive heart load. Host. If there is no suitable heart source for the operation, Charlie can live for at most 2 more years. The system told me to think carefully before making a decision, whether to get a suitable heart source for Charlie or to wake Kevin up. System, why do you think I need to consider? I felt puzzled and even a bit amused. I endured all the grievances to win Charlie's heart just to wake Kevin up. From beginning to end, Kevin has been my firm and only choice. "Jean, here you are." Charlie handed me an apple that was unevenly peeled. It was obvious that as a pampered young master, Charlie had no experience in taking care of others. I waved my hand in disgust, indicating again that I didn't want him to accompany me. Charlie slumped his shoulders, and his expression immediately turned gloomy. "Jean, I'm sorry. I really won't make you worry again in the future." I had told Charlie that if something happened to him, I couldn't live either. At that time, Charlie promised me there wouldn't be a next time, but now, he broke his promise because of the hostage incident. I withdrew my hand and replied indifferently, "As you like." Anyway, my mission was completed, and no matter how much he tormented himself, it had nothing to do with me. I was telling the truth, but Charlie thought I was still angry with him. Charlie tried hard to find topics to talk to me, but I always looked listless, until he suddenly mentioned Kevin, the person I had been thinking about day and night. "Jean, my cousin woke up a few days ago. The doctor said it was a miracle. Grace actually has always liked my cousin. She was so excited that she cried for a long time this time. I thought Charlie was probably trying to distance himself from Grace in front of me, but I sneered and rolled my eyes. I remembered that I used to be jealous of Grace and sarcastically told Kevin that he was really lucky that both his junior sisters had fallen in love with him. "Marjorie, it's different." I still remembered Kevin's serious look at that time. He said that I was the love of his life, the one he was destined to meet. It just happened that I came to his side as his junior sister. When our eyes met, we only saw each other. My name is Marjorie, and my lover is Kevin. We had been in love for many years until a car accident separated us between life and death. But now, I'm Jean, also the legal wife of Kevin's cousin. The night I was discharged from the hospital, I went to the restaurant where I had an appointment with Charlie. He said he had prepared a surprise for me, and I happened to have something to tell him, but I didn't expect that Charlie would break his promise again because of Grace. He kept explaining to me on the phone that Grace was rejected by Kevin, feeling sad, and got drunk in the bar, threatening to commit suicide. Jean, I'll come to you right away after I send Grace home. Charlie apologized while begging me to wait for him. Concerned about the thing I hadn't said yet, I had to be patient and wait. At 10 p.m., one after another fireworks suddenly bloomed in the sky. The waiter told me that Charlie had prepared this specially for me. I looked speechlessly at the empty chair opposite me, thinking the waiter was quite humorous. I wanted to go home and sleep. Yawning, I called Charlie. A familiar female voice answered the phone. Jean, it's me, Grace. Her voice was no sign of drunkenness at all. Charlie is taking a shower. If you're in a hurry, I can take the phone into him. Grace seemed considerate, but there was an air of intimacy with Charlie between the lines. No need. I couldn't help but find it funny. If you want to take a bath with Charlie, you don't need to find an excuse. Grace, frustrated by Kevin, wanted to humiliate me to make herself feel better. But she didn't know that even if she had an affair with Charlie right now, I wouldn't care at all. On the way back, my phone suddenly received a news push, followed by a surge of messages. Mysterious woman appears again, passionately kissing the young master of the Wilson family on the street. The explosive title on the trending search instantly piqued my curiosity. At this moment, Charlie's call came in. Jean, don't believe what's said on the internet. Grace was drunk just now and suddenly kissed me. I pushed her away immediately. He was angry and anxious, as if he had suffered a great grievance. I clicked on the photos under the trending search. I had to admit that the angle of the sneak shot was perfect. In the photo, Grace was on tiptoe, eyes closed, kissing Charlie's lips, although Charlie's expression couldn't be seen clearly in the shadow. It wouldn't make people think he was reluctant at the moment. Maybe this photo could come in handy in the future. I glanced at the divorce agreement waiting for Charlie to sign beside me and pressed the save button before the PR department deleted the post. Charlie and I returned home one after another. Without saying a word, Charlie plopped down on his knees in front of me who was sitting on the sofa. Was an apology really necessary to be so grand? I was startled, then I saw him blushing, lifting one leg, and solemnly taking out a pair of rings. Charlie said affectionately that this was what he owed me on our wedding day. Listening to his rapid breathing, I couldn't help but worry if he would faint again when we talked about divorce. I awkwardly avoided the rings and handed him the divorce agreement. Jean, did you take the wrong one? Charlie's face darkened as soon as he glanced at it, but the next second, he saw my signature on the agreement. Charlie looked at a loss. Clearly flustered. Jean, believe me, there's really nothing between me and Grace. His eyes instantly turned red with anxiety. She vomited all over me last night. I asked my assistant to bring me clothes. After I washed up, I wanted to find you, so I was delayed. Grace once saved me. She was going to commit suicide, and I really couldn't ignore it. I was wrong. I won't leave you for her anymore. I promise you, Jean. The incident that Grace saved Charlie when he had a heart attack caused quite a stir in our school. After Charlie woke up, he fell in love with Grace at first sight. Since then, he has become her most prominent suitor. Thinking about it carefully, my 9 tragic deaths somehow became part of their play. I was annoyed and interrupted impatiently. Charlie, you don't need to promise me anything. Just sign the agreement quickly. I had never spoken to Charlie in such a tone before. He was stunned on the spot, his mouth tightly pursed with disappointment and grievance. I turned my head away and stopped looking at him. After a while, I felt a weight on my knee. I saw Charlie half kneeling, hugging my waist, and gently resting his head on my lap. Jean, I love you. Charlie's voice was muffled. I tried to stand up, but his hands held me tightly. I should have told you this long ago. I was wrong. I won't let you be wronged again in the future. So, don't talk about divorce, okay? Please, Jean. Charlie kept making careful and humble promises. Like a dog being abandoned, clumsily trying to please its master. The moment the mission was successful, I knew Charlie loved me, but I never expected that the first time he said he loved me was right after I mentioned divorce. Didn't this guy know that belated affection was cheaper than grass? I frowned in disgust. Besides, for me, it wasn't about whether Charlie's love was late or not. Charlie, I must get a divorce, I said firmly, leaving no room for negotiation, because I don't love you. In an instant, Charlie raised his red-rimmed eyes and stared at me intently. I thought Charlie would angrily question me, but the next second, he actually grinned and giggled. His head even rubbed affectionately against my arms. Was he mentally deranged from the shock? I was completely confused by Charlie. Then I heard him say with certainty, "Jean, so you were just saying angry words." He seemed rather relieved. "Among so many reasons for divorce, you said you don't love me. You've been to the ICU several times to save me. You said yourself that if something happened to me, you couldn't live either. When I went to find Grace, you were so sad that you cried alone in the rain. Even when I became a hostage, you were crying and trying to rush forward to replace me. Jean, these are all the things you've done for me. How could you not love me?" With each word Charlie said, his expression became sadder. As he spoke, the smile on his face disappeared, and his voice started to tremble. A tear suddenly dropped onto the back of my hand. "Jean, I'm sorry," came a voice with a sobbing tone. This wasn't the first time Charlie had said sorry to me, but for the first time, I felt his overwhelming guilt and remorse. Charlie's tears with the divorce agreement. I remained silent. After his emotions stabilized, I said that I was going to move out, and he could come to me when he was willing to divorce, but Charlie stubbornly shook his head, saying that he would never divorce. "Jean, this time it's my turn to chase you. I'll wait until the day you forgive me." Charlie's serious look was no different from Kevin's. I was stunned for a moment. Charlie firmly believed that me saying I didn't love him was just angry words after being deeply hurt. I was at a loss for words. At that moment, I even wanted to tell him everything, but then I thought of Kevin and their relationship, and could only swallow my impulse bitterly. I knew that with my current identity, I was no longer qualified to be with Kevin. Now I just wanted to get divorced from Charlie as soon as possible, and then spend the rest of my life alone, wandering around. Charlie took the initiative to contact the TV station for a live interview. He apologized to me for the news on our wedding day and clarified the photos that were secretly taken a few days ago. I did have feelings for Grace, but now I only love my wife, Jean. I've done a lot of wrong things in the past, which broke Jean's heart. Now I just want to spend the rest of my life making up for it. Charlie, regardless of the surprised host beside him, seriously punished himself in public. "Jean, I'm sorry. I love you." When the camera zoomed in, the blatant love in Charlie's eyes almost overflowed the screen. The trending search stayed high for several days, and the comments below were polarized. Some people called Charlie a scumbag, while others praised him as a real man. Some said that a prodigal son returning is more precious than gold, and some said that belated affection is cheaper than grass. My phone was almost exploding with messages, and even my mom was moved by Charlie's shameless act and persuaded me several times. "Jean, Mom made some soup for you. When Charlie brings it to you tonight, have a good talk with him." Listening to the busy tone on the phone, I felt a headache. I just wanted to get a low-key divorce, but now Charlie had made it known to everyone. My infatuated image had taken root in people's hearts, and I could no longer use no feelings as a reason for divorce. Many netizens even left me messages saying that I had finally seen better days, and that I should forgive Charlie after torturing him. Everyone seemed to favor the plot of "I ignored you when you loved me, and I regret and pursue you when I leave." But the most annoying one was Charlie, the culprit. Besides going to my parents' place to curry favor every day, he repeatedly asked me when I was going to torture him. "Jean, now so many people are watching me. Can you give me a chance to start over?" Charlie pleaded pitifully with his magnetic voice. I was so angry that I laughed instead. After sending "This is moral kidnapping," I blocked his contact information. When I saw Charlie at my doorstep, I remembered what Mom said about sending soup. The night wind was cold, and Charlie was only wearing a thin shirt. His pale face showed fatigue, but when he saw me, his eyes lit up instantly. "Jean." Charlie raised the thermos bucket and smiled obsequiously at me. "Mom made soup for you, but I couldn't reach you, so I had to wait at your doorstep." I took the thermos bucket, thanked him, and then euphemistically asked him to leave, but Charlie shamelessly insisted on watching me finish the soup before leaving. The soup was a bit cold. I took a sip and found that it wasn't made by my mom. It was really hard to drink. I looked up, met Charlie's furtive glances, and saw the band-aid on his hand. I immediately understood and poured the soup into the sink in front of him. Hey, Gene, you. Charlie was too late to stop me and stood behind me, looking like he wanted to say something but held back. Charlie, did Grace ever tell you that the soup you make is hard to drink? As soon as I said this, I saw Charlie's face turn red instantly. No, Gene, it's not. I've never made soup for Grace. It's my first time, and I didn't have any experience. I definitely won't make mistakes next time. Charlie forced a smile and gently held my hand. Next time, it would probably be even worse. I felt tired and didn't want to beat around the bush with him anymore. My tone became heavier. Charlie, I poured out the soup not just because it was hard to drink, but more because it was made by you. I don't need your kindness. Please don't bother me before you agree to the divorce. I thought Charlie would fly into a rage or at least leave with a cold face, but he just remained silent. After a moment, he asked self-consciously, Gene, can I accompany you to temple tomorrow? Looking at Charlie's eager eyes, I remembered that tomorrow was the day to go to temple to pray for Kevin, but Kevin had already woken up, and I didn't need to go there frequently anymore. Thinking of this, I shook my head at Charlie. Charlie, I don't need you to accompany me. Looking at Charlie's drooping mouth, I thought for a while and added, I won't go there anymore in the future. As soon as I finished speaking, the disappointment on Charlie's face instantly turned into despair. That night, Charlie said good night to me with red eyes, forcing a smile. Before leaving, he didn't bother me for a while until one day, he said in a serious tone that he wanted to meet me. I agreed, but Charlie broke his promise again. Gene, Charlie said in a hurry on the phone, I'm at my cousin's place. He had an accident, and I can't come to see you. My heart skipped a few beats. Kevin, what happened to him? My mind went blank instantly. I turned around and ran towards Kevin's house desperately. From a distance, I saw a figure sitting on the edge of the rooftop. The figure was thin, as if it would be blown off by the wind the next second. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I could only run faster, even faster. Kevin, Marjorie is dead, but I'm still with you. If you really jump off, I won't live either. As soon as I reached the rooftop entrance, I heard Grace's crying, Miss Lynn. I don't know what my parents did to make you misunderstand. The voice that I had been longing for sounded, whether you live or die, what does it have to do with me? Kevin, who is always gentle, asked coldly at the moment. Grace turned around in embarrassment and left. She bumped into me hard, but I didn't have time to care. Kevin, I shouted. The two people left on the rooftop turned their heads at the same time. Kevin's eyes were full of confusion. He didn't know me. Gene, why are you here? Charlie also looked at me, who was in tears, with a blank face. Charlie, don't ask, I'm begging you, go down and wait for us, I pleaded. Charlie's face changed several times, and finally he left in silence. The wide rooftop was left with only Kevin and me. Mr. Kevin, could you come down first, please? I approached Kevin cautiously, step by step. Kevin shook his head and gave a polite but distant smile. I'm sorry. I startled you at our first meeting. Kevin said he was very happy because he would be able to see his beloved soon. I watched as his body leaned outward a bit more. No, Kevin, Marjorie didn't die. In a moment of desperation, I blurted out. Kevin stopped and turned his head, looking at me blankly. Kevin, Marjorie didn't die. She just can't recognize you. The grievance in my heart finally burst out completely. I cried and shouted. She became someone else. She even became someone else's wife. She can never come back to you. Kevin, she can't come back. My heart was torn with pain, and I fell to my knees, until I fell into a warm embrace. Marjorie, is that you? Kevin asked me over and over again with a trembling voice. I was crying too hard to speak, and could only nod desperately, hugging him tightly in return. I heard Kevin softly ask if I hadn't recognized him all this time because of Charlie. I frowned, not knowing how to explain it to him. But Kevin seemed to misunderstand. He even comforted me. Marjorie, if you only want to be Gene, I will definitely keep this secret. Marjorie, I just want you to be happy. Kevin's smile was uglier than his cry, making me feel both angry and heartbreaking at the same time. You fool, are you just going to be so generous and give me to someone else? I muttered unhappily, then raised my head and kissed Kevin's lips. I was so focused that I didn't hear the approaching footsteps. Gene, what are you two doing? Charlie's angry roar came. He widened his eyes, looking at Kevin and me in disbelief. Gene, is this the reason why you insisted on getting a divorce? My brother just woke up, and you've already hooked up with him. After coming down from the rooftop, Charlie kept sneering at me, looking at his increasingly pale face. I couldn't help asking if he had brought his medicine. When you were kissing my brother just now, why didn't you worry about whether my heart could take it? Charlie couldn't help raising his voice, asking me sarcastically, under Charlie's resentful gaze. After much hesitation, I told him everything, from my rebirth, to the system, and then to winning his love to save Kevin. I only didn't mention the 9 times I died tragically when the attempts to win his love failed, since I had already succeeded. Talking about those would seem like deliberately seeking pity. At first, Charlie frowned tightly, but later his face became expressionless. So, you really don't love me, right? Seeing me nod, Charlie suddenly kicked over the coffee table in front of me, his expression turning angry and distorted. Jean, you played with me. How dare you play with me? Charlie gritted his teeth, as if he was about to rush up and tear me apart. But the next second, a stream of tears flowed from his eyes. I had never seen Charlie look so desperate. He was crying silently, so vulnerable that he seemed like he would break at the slightest touch. I opened my mouth, but didn't know how to comfort him. Jean, Charlie's hoarse voice came. You're the most hateful woman I've ever seen. Charlie tightly pinched my chin. I was forced to look up and meet his eyes. Hatred, unwillingness, pain, sadness. Charlie's expression changed again and again. Finally, he laughed bitterly as if accepting his fate. I should hate you, Jean, he murmured, dejectedly resting his head on my shoulder, but why can't I bring myself to do it? That day, Charlie and I parted on bad terms. Jean, don't even think about getting a divorce from me. Charlie's tone was more serious than ever. He said that since I had deceived him, he wouldn't let me have my way. After Charlie left, Kevin asked me worriedly if I was willing to talk to him. I shook my head in silence. Kevin was thoughtful. If he knew the truth, he would probably blame himself even more. Marjorie, no matter what happens, I'll always be with you. Kevin didn't ask any more questions, just gently kissed my forehead. I told Kevin that I would resolve the matter between Charlie and me as soon as possible, but when no lawyer in the city was willing to take on my divorce case, I couldn't help calling Charlie to ask what he was up to. Jean, you cuckolded me, and you still expect me to make way for your love. Charlie had nothing nice to say. I suppressed my annoyance and explained, Charlie, if it wasn't for the accident last time, I would never have revealed my identity to Kevin in this lifetime. I want a divorce just because I don't love you. Charlie angrily told me to shut up. Jean, it was you who came to provoke me first. Divorce, don't even think about it. Charlie's stubbornness completely irritated me, and I retorted harshly, Charlie, our marriage is in name only. I can go to the hospital for a hymen test. If you don't divorce me, I'll find male models every day to cuckold you. Charlie hung up the phone without saying a word. When I regained my senses, I thought my words were a bit too much. A deliberate cough came from behind. I turned around and saw Kevin standing at the door. Marjorie, I didn't mean to overhear what you said. Kevin seemed to have a conflicted expression, but there was a smile in his eyes. I just thought it over and still wanted to give it a try. Before you find a male model, could you consider me first? I knew Kevin was just trying to make me happy, but I still blushed instantly. Not long after Kevin left, my phone rang. Jean, what was my brother doing at your place for so long? Charlie's voice was drunk, and he started asking me resentfully as soon as he opened his mouth. I didn't want to talk to a drunk person and was about to hang up when he suddenly softened his tone and pleaded weakly, Jean, talk to me. Okay, I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you angry this afternoon. Jean, I miss you so much. How can you be so cruel to me? Tell me what's so good about my cousin. I'll change to be like that. Jean, my heart hurts so much. If you don't come back, I'll throw away my medicine. Charlie kept talking to himself, and I was suddenly at my wit's end, remembering what the system had said. I couldn't help getting annoyed. Charlie, your heart can't take your nonsense. Can you stop being so capricious? The voice on the other side stopped abruptly. After a moment of silence, Charlie suddenly asked me if I had ever prayed for him during the many times I went to temple, even just once. His voice was tinged with sobs. I suddenly remembered that when Kevin woke up and went to temple to fulfill his vow, I had already stepped out of the Buddha hall, but then turned around and knelt down in front of the Buddha again, asking him to bless Charlie with happiness and good health. I thought that Charlie was a crucial help in Kevin waking up, but the truth was too cruel. If I told him, Charlie might really be so angry that he would vomit blood. Seeing that I didn't say anything for a long time, Charlie laughed self-mockingly. Jean, you really have no heart, he murmured and hung up the phone. I sighed and called Charlie's secretary. That night, Charlie was sent to the hospital again. The doctor said that if he continued to mess around like this, His heart could last at most one more year. Charlie said calmly on the phone that he wanted to see me. We finally made an appointment for 3 days later, the day he was discharged from the hospital, but the night before the meeting, I had an accident. When I woke up again, I found myself lying in an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs. Grace was standing in front of me with a hideous face. Jean. Her sharp voice cut through the silent night, making me shudder. You bitch. Having Charlie isn't enough for you. You actually want to seduce Kevin too. Charlie actually came to warn me because of you. What kind of magic potion did you pour into him? As she spoke, she slapped me twice hard. The taste of blood immediately filled my mouth. I was weak all over and could only remain silent, knowing that I couldn't provoke her rashly at this moment, but Grace had gone crazy. She laughed and said she was going to set fire to the place and create the illusion that I committed suicide. You're crazy. I spat the blood-mixed saliva onto her face viciously, but she just laughed even louder. The warehouse was big. Grace only lit a corner on the first floor. She didn't want me to die too quickly. She said she wanted me to watch death approaching and suffer the pain. My phone was not far away, but I didn't have the strength to reach it. The system had left after my mission was successful. Without its protection, I could do nothing but wait for death. The feeling of being burned to death really wasn't good. It was a pity that I couldn't adjust the pain perception anymore, I thought despairingly, until I heard someone calling my name, accompanied by the urgent footsteps, before I could see clearly who was in front of me. I was tightly hugged into someone's arms. Charlie, why is it you? I stared blankly at Charlie in front of me. He was still wearing a hospital gown, and there was a patch of blood on the back of his hand. What? Are you disappointed that it's not my brother? Charlie gasped, saying sourly. Before I could answer, he picked me up and ran towards the exit. Charlie was focused on avoiding the thick smoke and forgot to pay attention to the wooden boxes piled up beside him. Bang, with a loud noise. I seemed to hear the sound of bones breaking. At the moment the wooden boxes collapsed, I was tightly protected in Charlie's arms. Charlie's leg was pinned down by the wooden boxes. I wanted to help him, but I was powerless. Jean. Charlie's face was deathly pale, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. He tightened his arms around me. Don't waste your energy. There was no signal in the warehouse, and the phone was useless. Despair enveloped us again. Jean, if there was no cousin, would you have fallen in love with me? In the silent stillness, Charlie's voice suddenly rang out. He looked down at me, stubbornly waiting for an answer. I felt a pang of pity, but still shook my head. Charlie, the first time you left me for Grace, I was destined not to love you. The love I want is mutual respect and also an eternal and exclusive preference. Charlie's eyes instantly turned red. He raised the corners of his mouth, and his smile was uglier than his cry. Jean. Even when we're about to die, you're not willing to lie to me. I softly said sorry, but Charlie closed his eyes and stopped looking at me. In the thickening smoke, I didn't know how much time had passed. I seemed to hear someone calling my name. Charlie suddenly lifted my head and rubbed my lips with his fingertips repeatedly. His eyes were affectionate, as if filled with endless nostalgia and reluctance. Jean, I installed a tracker on your phone. On the way here, I hesitated for a long time, but finally sent a message to my cousin. No, I'm extremely glad I made this decision. Even if you're cruel to me, I can't bear to let you die with me. A sigh came to my ears. The next second, my lips were pressed against something warm and wet. Charlie kissed me fiercely. I was so anxious that I bit his lip, but the kiss didn't stop until Kevin arrived. The fire was getting bigger and bigger. The wooden boxes were too heavy, and Kevin couldn't move them at all. Cousin, save Jean first, Charlie said as he handed me, who was in his arms, to Kevin. Kevin's eyes swept over my swollen lips, and the hand holding me tightened instantly. I buried my head in his chest in embarrassment. Charlie, I'll come back to save you right away. The moment Kevin turned around, I heard Charlie's voice. Jean, did it hurt when you were being burned to death? I suddenly raised my head, unable to believe my ears. At the moment our eyes met, the sadness in Charlie's eyes almost overflowed. He hung his head dejectedly and murmured, so those dreams were real. Cousin, Charlie smiled at Kevin, looking relieved. You know, the reason you woke up is because I finally fell in love with Jean, but actually, this was the 10th time she tried to make me fall in love with her. She failed 9 times, and each time she died a tragic death because I didn't love her. She endured the grievances I brought her and the pain of death, all just to fulfill the wish of waking you up, cousin. Jean loves you very much. You must cherish her. I didn't expect Charlie to have all the previous memories, nor did I expect him to tell Kevin everything. He looked so serious, as if he was saying his last words. Kevin's hands holding me were trembling non-stop, and his tears dripped onto my face. After experiencing it several times, before dying, I skillfully lowered my pain perception. Kevin put me down and was about to rush into the fire, but the moment he turned around, the warehouse suddenly collapsed. I stepped forward and hugged him tightly. Kevin was crying, shouting Charlie like crazy, looking at the raging tons of fire in front of me. I thought of Charlie's eyes looking at me affectionately. He pointed at his lips with a smile and said to me that he had received the reward for saving me. If he died, I didn't need to feel guilty anymore. At this moment, I couldn't hold back the grief in my heart and burst into tears. This was the first time Charlie watched me leave, but it also became the last time I saw him in this life. Charlie died in that fire. Grace deliberately set the fire, and because of the serious nature of the crime, she was punished by law. But I knew the Wilson family wouldn't let her go easily. After coming out of the fire, I got seriously ill and was in a daze all the time. When I finally recovered, I left without telling anyone and boarded a plane going on a long journey. Charlie died because of me. I thought that in this life, there was no possibility for Kevin and me anymore. After staying in a fishing village by the sea for a year, I dreamed of Charlie for the first time. He said Kevin was almost going crazy looking for me. He didn't expect that after his death, he would still have to help Kevin. He babbled a lot, but when I woke up, I only remembered him smiling and saying goodbye to me at the end. I was awakened by a knock on the door. Marjorie. The moment I opened the door, I fell into a familiar and reassuring embrace. The end.